Have you ever wondered what happened to victorious gladiators when the arena lights went out? Most people think that after the blood and sweat of battle, these warriors enjoyed eternal wealth and glory. But the reality is far darker and more intriguing than you might imagine. These champions, cheered by the crowds and idolized as heroes, often faced challenges as deadly as the fights inside the Colosseum. A gladiator's fate outside the arena was not as simple as receiving honors and living the rest of their days in peace. On the contrary, many continued their lives immersed in dangers, political plots, and the constant threat of betrayal. Now, imagine the fear of sleeping each night knowing that, despite your victories, the next day could be your last. And what if I told you that for some of these gladiators, victory wasn't the end, but just the beginning of a new battle, far from the public eye? In this video, you will uncover secrets that history rarely reveals. Stick around until the end and discover what really happened to Rome's most victorious gladiators when the applause faded and the arena went silent. What you find out might completely change your view of these legendary warriors. For many, winning a gladiatorial fight meant achieving freedom. However, this freedom was illusory. A victorious gladiator, even after multiple battles, remained the property of their lanista or the state. On rare occasions, a gladiator would earn the coveted rudis, the wooden sword symbolizing their freedom. But even with this achievement, what truly awaited these warriors outside the arena? Most gladiators, even the most victorious, faced a harsh reality after their fights. Physical scars were only part of the problem. Many struggled with the psychological trauma from constant combat. Thus, freedom brought a new form of emotional slavery, as gladiators fought to reintegrate into a society that largely viewed them as disposable entertainment. Moreover, life outside the arena did not necessarily mean the end of dangers. The gladiator who had proven their worth in battle often found themselves pressured to return to the arena for special fights, or even to protect influential figures of ancient Rome. With a reputation forged in blood and pain, the expectation to maintain that image became a new prison. The fate of those who gained their freedom was rarely glorious. Many ended up in security jobs or military activities, where their skills continued to be exploited, though without the glamour of public combat. For others, fame attracted envy and resentment, making them targets of conspiracies and betrayals, even far from the crowd's gaze. Therefore, winning in the arena did not mean the end of difficulties. For many, it was merely the beginning of a new series of challenges, where the price of fame continued to be paid, now in a struggle against obscurity and the ghosts of the past. The life of a victorious gladiator was not only marked by battles within the arena, but also by a dangerous game of conspiracies outside it. Gladiators who became popular and acclaimed by the public often attracted the attention of powerful figures. These connections with political and aristocratic elites could bring advantages, but also entangled them in plots filled with intrigue and betrayal. A champion was not just a symbol of strength, but also a pawn in political disputes. In this case, the danger did not come from the swords and spears of adversaries, but from the alliances gladiators were forced to make. Influential patrons used these warriors to advance their own agendas, often coercing them into participating in dangerous or secret activities. At any moment, a gladiator could find themselves caught up in a conspiracy that threatened not only their reputation, but also their life. Some were murdered for being seen as threats to powerful leaders. In addition to intrigue, there was envy. Victorious gladiators often suffered from the resentment of less successful peers, or lanistas who felt their position of power was threatened by the rise of their fighters. Fame attracted not only admiration, but also hidden enemies, eager to seize any opportunity to take down a champion. In the Roman world, rapid ascent was often followed by an even quicker and more brutal fall. Constant vigilance became a routine. These men, who had faced death countless times in the arena, now had to confront threats of a more subtle nature. Friendships became fragile, and allies often had hidden agendas. The psychological pressure was immense. as any mistake could mean a silent death at the hands of a traitor. Thus, life outside the arena, for many gladiators, was a continuation of the battle, only in a much more invisible and treacherous battlefield. Fame elevated them, but also kept them in a constant state of alert, where trusting someone was a luxury few could afford. With the fame gladiators earned in the arena, often came great material rewards. Some champions accumulated considerable fortunes, receiving valuable gifts from their patrons or even from emperors. Luxurious homes, slaves, and land were part of the rewards given to these heroes of the arena. However, with this newfound wealth came new dangers. The envy and greed of those around the gladiators intensified as their riches grew. The life of a victorious gladiator might seem luxurious, but it was actually surrounded by traps. The most famous gladiators were constantly at risk of being murdered or betrayed, often by those they trusted. For some, accumulated wealth did not serve as a safe haven, but as a trap that placed them in even greater danger. Being a rich gladiator meant always having a target on their back. Rivalries between gladiators also intensified outside the arena. When a gladiator won repeatedly, they automatically overshadowed their peers. This success created tension and hatred among fighters, especially those who saw their own chance for advancement blocked by a champion. These conflicts often resulted in attempts on the lives of victorious gladiators, who could be poisoned, ambushed, or betrayed by their own comrades. In addition to enemies within the gladiator community, Roman elites also viewed these warriors with suspicion. The fear that a gladiator, with their growing popularity, might wield influence over the masses was real. Roman rulers were always on the lookout for any sign of rebellion, and a gladiator beloved by the people could be seen as a threat to the established power. Thus, the fame and wealth of a gladiator could become a gilded cage. The gifts and honors came with hidden enemies and the constant fear of betrayal. Each step towards glory made the gladiator a target, and living under this pressure turned victory into just another burden to bear. For between glory and oblivion, the end of a gladiator. For many victorious gladiators, the end of their careers in the arena did not necessarily mark the beginning of a peaceful life. Retirement as a hero was a fate reserved for a few, and even those men faced a constant struggle against obscurity. As new gladiators emerged, the old champions were gradually sidelined. The glory that once surrounded them began to fade, along with the security and privileges they had earned. Some former gladiators tried to stay relevant by participating in public events or being called upon to train new fighters. However, this connection to the arena only prolonged the feeling of being trapped in a past that was becoming increasingly distant. Life outside the battles was a struggle for recognition, where the public that once cheered for them began to forget their achievements. With this forgetfulness came loneliness and loss of identity. For those who could not maintain their fame, the fate was even darker. Many former gladiators ended up begging on the streets of Rome, living on the fringes of society. Their scars and bodies marked by years of fighting served as reminders of a glorious era that had long passed. Others found themselves forced to return to the arena, no longer as heroes, but as fallen veterans, fighting for survival in increasingly brutal matches. Some victorious gladiators did manage to retire peacefully, but this largely depended on the connections they had. Those with powerful allies could retreat to country villas or live comfortably with the wealth they had amassed. However, these were rare cases. Most ended up lost between ephemeral glory and inevitable oblivion, without the status that once protected them. The cycle was cruel and relentless. The end of a gladiator, whether in the arena or outside it, marked the conclusion of an era of violence and bloodshed. But for the champions who lived to tell their tale, the fight against time and memory became the final battle, a silent struggle away from the applause and the public that once hailed them.